All right, good afternoon. It's been a good 2 to 3 days here. For the final presentation of the day here, we have Michael O'Donnell with, ProCircular.
Yep, no worries.
Without any further ado, Michael, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you. So, two things that we'll start with. I think there is a bit of a conflu already going around. I've got a little tickle, so I'll be drinking water, trying to keep a cough away. And part two will be, I've already alerted a couple of my coworkers and stuff. I tend to speak very quickly, as it is under normal circumstances. If I start speaking quickly because I get excited or nervous or something, throw something at me, wave at me, do something, no worries. Legitimately, I even put something in here to say when you're at the VOD, if we're going on this when it's all done being recorded, like you might even have to slow it down. I'm trying to slow down a bit, but I'm always worried I'm gonna sound like a bit of a robot, just throwing it out there. So, disclaimer, as always put these things up there. I just want to say, even though I'm repping ProCircular for all this stuff and everything, obviously my thoughts are my own. Anything I say it's stupid or anything that I mention or anyone affiliated with this stuff, I have no affiliation with. These are just tools that I enjoy. These are things I've learned over the years, but nothing's being sponsored or anything like that. So, who am I? Michael Odell, just to say that one, but as I say, most people refer to me as Moke. There's been enough mics in my lifetime that it's been getting old, so you should just go by Moke. But cybersecurity consultant for ProCircular on the OCO team. Pen tester for about, 5 years now. Developer for about 7 before that, including some college time. And then, yes, as I think most pen testers would tell you, nerd for the majority of my life. So, we're working on stuff like this. I was hoping I could share with everyone, just kind of show that I wanted to show how can other people get into this. Kind of the whole inspiration for all this, along with some other things we'll kind of get into in a bit, was I always kind of get the question is, how can I get to where you are? Whether it's go back to college, if it's go through different courses, boot camps. I wanted to put something together that would be a little more long-winded for someone, might be a little more long-lived, because there's always new resources coming out, there's always new education. I mean, everything's always constantly developing, especially in the security technology world, as rapid as everything is. I wanted something that might be a little more, give people the tools to go out and figure out their own way, rather than me just saying, hey, go try out this newest latest thing. I will say, I try to also kind of build this so it's not just applicable to security and pen testing. This honestly could go for about anything. A lot of stuff I use up here actually started originally from me trying to learn a different language. So, just throwing it out there. And the biggest reason I'm doing this, because I love this, I am lazy. The good lazy, where I want to do something once and never do it again. So, this is now, if I get asked, how do I do this, I can show them this talk. So, the goal. At the end of this, I'm hoping you can actually go through and have your own education you can build out. Not just from me again, or anyone for that matter, saying, do this course, do this college, go do these kind of things. I want it to be where you have the resources, the kind of knowledge to go through and figure out, how can I figure out where the resources are? If you're familiar with meta learning, is kind of what I'm going at. Goal number 2, as cheap as possible as I could possibly make it. I want it so you didn't have to go, especially $1,000 debt, but even for some of the different certification processes or some different like learning and boot camps and so forth, those can also still add up quite a bit, and especially if you're someone that's working 9 to 5 just trying to keep the bills paid. Those aren't always applicable, and those always are available to you. So I really wanted this to be on the low end for that kind of stuff. Self-driven, the whole idea of this is really that you're taking the motivation to go through and do this yourself. I want people that hopefully have that want to get out of whatever situation they're in, switch to a new career or whatever, and then as much as possible, I want us to still keep the kind of the idea of the college with it, where you have the networking, you have the people you're with. As you're meeting new people, you're gonna have your peers. Talk to them, I'll kind of go into a little more later on, and have those connections you're going in, because they'll be the people, in theory at least, as you're getting further and further into your career, they're also leveling up, and then you have those well-established connections ahead of time. So, inspiration. If you're not familiar with the Open Source Society University, it's kind of the same idea I've built upon this, but on the computer science side. Really the whole idea for them is they have a bunch of classes that are open through different sources. You can go through the whole entire thing. It doesn't cost a whole lot. There are a couple of pay-for classes they go through, but we're talking a matter of maybe like 50 or 60 bucks for books here and there. We're talking about going through and getting different courses, maybe for cheap, maybe at max a couple $100, but it's relatively inexpensive. Don't know why that flipped. The whole entire idea being, though, that they have an outline that you can go through and kind of work for. Again, this being computer science, but hey, if you also want to learn computers and pen testing is also a great side project as well. So, the whole kind of ideas will come back to this, but I want to have it so you have the tools to go out and find this kind of resource and build your own. So, the too long didn't watch for all of this, but if you don't take away anything, go get Obsidian. We'll talk about that quite a bit here in a bit. This tool, I made this entire speech and talk mainly based around this tool because it has changed the way I try and learn everything. Linking of ideas, linking of all kinds of different stuff. You can have programmatic approaches for like having different things connect together. You can have visual and text built into one and all of it searchable. It has changed everything for me. So I really can't understate that. And the other thing would be an ultra learning, which I've told multiple people. And frankly, this entire talk is really based off the first chapter of this book alone. The whole idea of meta learning, where to find resources and how to go about setting up your entire curriculum. So I cannot stress enough, if you zone out after this, you're bored, or you found this too easy, take this slide here, go off and do your thing, you'll be in good hands. So otherwise, yep, start learning and then just go out and start doing cool things. So kind of starting with Obsidian, this is the one thing I was really talking about, is the whole idea is it's on the surface just appears to be another note-taking app. And this is one I wish I would have had years ago, the whole thing. The whole idea though is built around, instead of having like continual notes, just, oh, Monday in a lecture we talked about these topics. The idea is you really break them down into, we'll talk about atomic notes here in a minute, where it's small, as small as you can really get, topics that are meant to be passed around, the whole thing kind of linked to, in and out of it, and you can have it so you can go between any of it and actually start linking your different ideas. Oh, that does not show up at all. Okay, well, on the side for the picture, you can even see, and hopefully it comes up later on, where the Obsidian itself will actually start linking out and showing you those different connections inside there, so you can actually see them just by glancing at it, and then start to infer those different connections as well. So it's not just inside your head, but you can actually see inside your notes and your what's called public knowledge management system as well, if you want that, if you know that term. And let's say finally that the plugin system we'll also get into a little bit are all built into this, and not a dime for any of this we don't want. There are some ways to support the developers. I'll throw it out there. If you can, you should, because they're awesome. But you don't have to pay a dime for this if you don't want. As far as plugins, we'll be kind of quick on this. The three that I'm really going to suggest, I could honestly go on for an hour for just the plugin system, is Kanban, Excalidraw, and DataView. And kind of going through all of these, and I have a pretty quick one. Kanban, if you're familiar, and if you're not, you're going to love this. It's basically just a project management system that you can use for both education, for different systems for tracking your projects and everything like that. I use this to keep my life in order, otherwise I don't know what I would do. The fact that you can basically just drag different tasks around, the fact that you can keep all this stuff, or I have just different parts of the my like education training and stuff I'm working on can really build into this. And I have seen a couple of cameras. I'll just let you know it's being recorded, and I will throw this up on my LinkedIn afterwards. So if you just want to take notes, don't worry about the slides. So, but this is one of the things I cannot suggest enough, along with a couple of other ones, is the fact that it will all stay together, and you can do all this different tracking to keep your life organized, because security gets complex real quick. The second thing being, if you're more of a graphical person, also for linking your ideas together through yourself, is called Excalidraw. What you can do is have it so you have different information that you can just link from one to another, have your own mind map kind of going, and then once again, they're actual notes, they're searchable, you can go through and try and find it, you can link to it, they can link to other notes. It's all integrated together, and on the back end, it's all just plain text, so there's nothing to being locked into a system either. And the big one that I cannot stress enough on this one is DataView, where you can use programmatic approach to linking your different notes. I don't think I can fully, again, within my time limit, explain how revolutionary this was for me, where I could have simply inside my notes, rather than having to remember to go and link to different things, I can have inside different note types, stuff like that, where I can just set a couple properties, and there, in this case, I did a real simple one for simplicity's sake, but where I can say this is ADCS for privilege escalation, and it'll automatically link to one of my different notes that will show how you can use that kind of thing, and then I can build an entire web of resources showing, hey, I'm at this perspective, where can I go within my network to go through and have an entire built up programmatically, so I don't have to remember X, Y, and Z note that was on the other page over here because I'm in the middle of a pen test and something new popped up. So, a couple more of your note-taking styles I really want to encourage if you're going to go this route. Is one of them is called atomic notes, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, but can I go back into it? Is that you have notes that are kind of the smallest topic possible, whether it be, like I kind of mentioned, the Active Directory certificate services are a big one now, and those kind of break down at different escalation prompts. I would actually break it down into those different escalations and have it so you can link in and out, because they all kind of require different configurations or different things to be set. But you can have all that linked out, and you want to have it all kind of built out, because then you're not searching through one giant text format. You're searching for individual topics. You're searching for things you can go look for. And that's one of the biggest parts of it, and I'm hoping that shows a little better. Yes, this time you can actually see where Obsidian will start to link all those different thoughts for you with a different tree. This obviously being the local one versus the big one, but hopefully the picture later on shows a little better. So, the other one being what's called evergreen notes. Don't make your notes to never be edited. Unless you're doing something specifically like, I don't know, a book or something that's intentionally never gonna change. I really recommend that you go into your notes with the idea that these will update as you either learn more or as the information may change. It's incredible to know that you can go back, you can get annoyed with yourself and maybe there's something you didn't have quite all the way in there. Go in there, kind of update all the information rather than, you had a note 3 months ago that kind of said a couple things you did, and you have a new note today. We were kind of updated that. You have one centralized set of information that you can really go back to and really grow and have a large corpus of information for your own brain. And eventually this grows with you to the point where I can't live without this anymore, I'll be completely honest. My short-term memory is especially gone because I just dump everything into here. If I lost this, I would lose 50% of my productivity tomorrow. So, the bonus of all this is addicting to me. Okay, it kind of shows. But the idea being that eventually you get a giant graph tree of all your different information you have linked together, and you can have it play back to you as this thing grows. This is completely just a bonus for me because I love it, but this becomes very addicting to watch as over time this will keep growing out. You'll see all the different links and everything like that, and you'll have it so you can actually go through and view that. And while the tree itself is questionably helpful to me, it is really addicting to see this grow, so big bonus for that part. So, kind of back on the whole trying to avoid the college side. I say that partially because we're still going to use them for a lot of our inspiration, in that I'm going to go steal their stuff. So the whole idea being that a lot of colleges will print or give out their entire curriculum for any one statement. That's fantastic. There's a lot of free resources that cover the same stuff nowadays. So my suggestion to all of you, and this comes straight from the book, I don't want to plagiarize, is to go out to these different colleges, figure out the different education you want to go through, and then go find it online free, or cheap, relatively. And then you can also skip the gen eds, make sure I can add that. So, kind of like I was saying, or the MIT OpenCourseWare is one I want to really mention, but honestly, YouTube, GitHub Awesome Projects, Khan Academy, Pwn.College we'll talk about specifically a little later, Hack the Box, all these are either free or relatively cheap, where you're not going to be going $1,000 in debt, and you can actually still get that knowledge. It's not quite perfect, it's not quite the same thing, because sometimes you still have to jump through a few hoops. But again, I'm hopefully saving you a lot of money. And the whole idea with kind of gotta go with all this is that at the end of a college degree, you get the degree. Well, honestly, nowadays for a lot of tech people, what you can do for this kind of thing is have it so you can go out and get certifications, which really count a lot more, honestly, in a lot of cases. I won't mention any names. Let's say I've met fresh grads, and I think most of us have, where it wasn't quite what we were hoping for that came out of that. But if they do a certification, I know exactly what they did, and they went through and they figured out. So I've been trying to enjoy that a little more. We'll kind of talk about that later. The one I want to mention, just because I really enjoy it, I did jiu-jitsu back in my day, was specifically Pwn.College. Came out relatively recently, as far as I know, but they give you belts instead of certification. I think that's awesome. Oh, do you really? Really cool. No, let's just say I've loved their stuff so far, and this, make sure I say with Pwn.College, 100% free. Maybe I'll argue not the most, if you're absolute beginner, maybe not the best place to start, but it is a really good resource to kind of work your way towards and go take a look at. So, I did want to mention this because I think it's not completely right to dog on college completely. For those who do need a little more structure, for those who do need that direct assistance and have a teacher they can go to, or maybe a teacher's assistant, and then also, like I was mentioning earlier with networking your fellow students, there is still something to be said about a more traditional route, such as either college or even, again, like a training or anything like that. You know what I'm talking about. I was going to say, and also the fact that really a degree does help, especially when you're getting past more of the HR barrier, trying to get into that initial, at least reviewing. A lot of people are trying to apply these jobs. Any little leg up does help. I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't, but again, it's kind of one of those, are you willing to go all that money into debt for a hopeful maybe? Or there's a quick tangent, in the case of one guy I knew, went through college, all of it, did it for a year, and then ended up hating it. So, awesome idea. So, anyway, on the community side, I did try and put something together for this whole entire thing. You can kinda generate the same community. Networking through like different Discords or Twitter groups or anything like that, make yourself a persona, even if you don't want to use your real name, is one thing I was gonna suggest, and I threw at the bottom. I lurked for many years on different chat rooms, especially IRC back when. That's actually how I learned my Linux stuff way back when, was an old hacker chat room that they were just talking about Gentoo. That's all it was, and then I learned everything from that. So you can still get in these different training ones for free. For example, I have TCM 0 Point up there, just as two that came to my mind. But everyone has one of these nowadays, or your different YouTube channels. The only thing you have to be kind of careful with this, and is why I do sigh a little bit, is you always do kind of get those elitist groups in these different ones that want to show off or be the like big bad, or they have to be the biggest guy in the room. And Little unfortunate. My suggestion to you is just probably ignore them or feed their ego a little bit and see if they'll help you out afterwards. Can be a little manipulation with that. So, continuing education, this is kind of going to apply to both sides, whichever way you do go. I do want to make sure this is one that's put up there. I was not aware until I started my current job how much gets put on Twitter for free. I've seen constant hack updates, I've seen exploits, I've seen new race conditions, I've seen proof of concepts. It's amazing still what gets put up there. And there's different groups you can follow, there's different individuals you would want to follow, some more obvious like bigger names, and it kind of spreads out because the algorithm figures out, hey, you want this, well, let me show you more of that. So really cannot recommend that enough. Then there's more of the obvious ones. Your blog posts from your different big corporations. I had to put ProCircular up there because I think they would beat me if I didn't at least mention ours. And then, of course, your different conventions such as CornCon, which, again, I'll mention the local one. But as you go to different ones, DEF CON is always one of the big ones. But your local ones obviously have all your different information there as well. So that's how you can continue to do everything with all this. Then the one thing I think, and I've heard everyone mention so far, this is the biggest thing, is not one of the guys I've ever worked with didn't fail several times on the way up to where they are now. They were willing to go through and do the extra work. They were willing to struggle, to bash their head against a wall. They're trying to get something going through, to struggle against the unknown of all of it, researching, asking people through some of the stuff. I'm going to tell you the other side is, yes, you failed, go do it more. That's why I kind of love this meme, is I'm going to encourage you to go screw up more because you're going to learn a lot from it. So, bonus, because I wasn't sure we were going to have for time on this. I was hoping I wouldn't rant too much. Gamification of the soul of everything. Once again, free tool, although it's partially free. I'll admit this one, there are some paid for features. But you can track your learning. And the reason I thought this was really cool is some stuff I've been working on have had other people in this area where they'll go through and set up a toggle and track their time. You're like, okay, let's just do kind of check-ins every 1,000 hours to see how am I doing for different things. And this stuff adds up fast if you actually follow it. But the one I really want to mention is it has tracking in there. You can set goals. You can set streaks for every month. You can kind of challenge yourself and get to the point where you have a streak of you've met your challenge for 50 weeks in a row. You don't really want to drop it. You become highly incentivized to keep yourself going. So you challenge yourself to continue with all this kind of stuff. And it's fantastic for me, who I'm also busy, but I'll find 30 minutes today to go do whatever I was working on. And the final one is, this is the one that's maybe a little more contentious, we'll see, is the train yourself. And yes, I did use Pavlov's dog for this. But the whole idea is, like, I want you to go out, and especially, I'll just say this, most security people are wired a little differently, to put it politely. And there's ways you can take advantage of that more than trying to be evil for that. So trick yourself, train yourself, have a checkbox for simple tasks. Don't be like, oh, complete the certification. Complete that one module in the certification, complete that one lab assignment, complete that one CTF challenge. I'm not kidding when I say it down that much, and then treat yourself for it. Find something you enjoy you can do with it. I legitimately do candies. I will have like a gummy worm that I'll just chew on for a bit and have something to be kind of excited for. It's stupid, but it works. So, otherwise, any questions, anything I can kind of clarify? I will try not to go too fast in any of this. Hopefully, kind of kept the speech about right. Anything. Go ahead. Oh, I'm so bad about it too. So I'm just going to repeat it so it's for the camera as well. Just basically, you have a lot of things you're trying to work on at once and have a hard time prioritizing. We got that right. I'm in the exact same boat. Again, I would first sit down and kind of figure out, okay, what's the big priorities? What are the main things you're focused on? And then go through and kind of maybe put those at the top of the checklist. Might be one of the things I always do. Or again, those gamifications, I'll allocate maybe an hour to, we'll just say security, and then 30 minutes of drawing. I don't know, something like that, right? And they'll have those kind of different allocations. So you have the greater heap of your time, because unfortunately we don't have so much time in a day, to those different things. So it'll be kind of come down to you, but that's what I do is I really trying to prioritize certain things. And then as those other ones kind of creep as I try things, I have almost a miscellaneous group of like, okay, we're trying this today. So that's my tip. I hope it kind of helps because I've still kind of struggled with myself. Anyone else? Sure.
At what point when using Obsidian or just like discovering Obsidian did you really go, oh shoot, this is the application that I need to be using?
So to repeat it, just basically when did I start Obsidian, when did I realize it was amazing? Like I said, when the whole idea of, it wasn't notes I was taking just for simply taking notes, right? Like you go in school, you're just like, oh, here's today's Monday's note. When it became actual topics, when it became things that were linked and was searchable and actually had like finite details was really the big difference for me. And then when I could programmatically start linking all the things together, where I wasn't forgetting that one note I took 2 years ago because it was relevant at the time, haven't touched it since, then went back and found it, and it's happened a couple times now. Where because I had it linked to the entire system and it's had an entire hierarchy set up. So really that's why I kind of really stress the data view side, is it will link all that stuff for you and programmatically as well. Sure.
So, I've been using Obsidian for a while, but I think the idea of atomic notes is really good. But thinking back to the notes that I've been taking, that are just kind of a massive wall of text. Do you have any thoughts on, like, would you go back and try and atomize them, or how would you approach that?
Oh, I'm in flashbacks on that one. So question was basically, I have a long set of notes already, and then how do I maybe go switch to the more atomic style if I was going to go that route? The harsh answer, and the one I had to do too, was I went back through my notes and I broke them out. And it sucks, and you do it once, it's done. I don't really have a good answer other than that. I wish you luck. I've got two in the back, so we'll go left first. On my left.
So how much of your screen do you dedicate to Obsidian as you're like researching and whatnot?
Okay, so question, actually, that's a different one, was how much my screen gets really allocated to Obsidian. A whole one. I'm lucky enough, though, that I have 3 screens when I'm doing all my work and everything, so it's usually my right screen is my notes, my left screen is maybe like the side stuff or even just music sometimes, and the main screen will be my research topics. And honestly, there's sometimes I have like my main point of like, I'll link the page, and then I'm copying out the relevant bits and just putting it into my notes, and then I can kind of sort those out later. But if you're in the middle of something, again, especially if you're in the zone just wanting to research, is quickly dump the info and come back to it later if you need to. Good. That's a trick. See, there's a good one. Okay, so the question was, how do I know what's noteworthy? The easy answer for that, and the one that's probably not quite what you want, is if it's worth looking up, it's probably worth noting down. That's kind of a simple answer in general. If you're doing research on it or something even slightly related to your field, and eventually you kind of get a feel for this as well. But I would definitely start noting things down. Biggest thing if you want, because I know there's some days I'm guilty of this just as well. I just need to throw things in there because I just need to get things through quickly. Just throw links to different things inside your notes and have it so you can have, here's your topic, here's some different categories of stuff that kind of relate to that you can go back and find it later on. If that's you're going for a quick one, but really, if it's worth doing the research for, you're going to come back to it eventually, most likely. So I at least have a link to the topic or the idea, and as you keep coming back to it, those notes will kind of build up naturally as the ones maybe just a little of the fringe what you do normally. And then obviously your main notes, I'll completely suggest doing those. Anyone else? Actually, just you gave the one thing I was going to also throw on there if you didn't know, but you do. For anyone that doesn't know, basically, he uses grep for a lot of his notes as well. Obsidian on the back end is just Markdown. It's just plain text stuff. So if you have either tools you want to use on the back end that don't integrate directly for whatever it might be, such as grep, or let's just throw it out there too, Obsidian for whatever reason goes defunct, you just have plain text notes. I'm not in a database. You can take those and integrate into anything. I know there's open source alternatives that are starting to come up that look pretty good. It should be, slight caveat, but should be for the most part, hopefully a direct import. I will leave that because who knows with open source, right?